Yeah, I like the description of this says I got bored while messing around with this, so I decided to stream it. I already have quite a bit done, but this is mostly from yesterday and a few days ago, and a lot of time spent theorizing how this should even work. So, I guess the best way to introduce this is to go over some of the parts I'm using. Or actually, I should introduce the game first. This is Doom 2016. Part of this game is this snap map mode. It's difficult to say, and I guess they call it that because it's literally just this grid that you can't see right now. This is like a module. Like, I put this here, I can add other stuff too, but that's besides the point. You can see this like grid around it. That's like snapping points. Each one of those is like snapping points, right? And so they call it the snap net mode, I guess, because you can snap stuff. I don't know. Point is, it's cool. And my goal is to. Okay, then my goal is to make a working 4-player RPG style game in the SnapNet mode. And obviously, or not obviously, if you've never played it, there's so much that I would have to do just to get the players started that I probably couldn't do it all, or I'd have to separate it into a bunch of separate maps, which means I'd have to basically make a bunch of game modes, which are not game modes, but like levels or whatever, which is fine. It's pretty cool. I've been messing around with it, but in the Doom SnapNet mode, you have all these little items you can put down, and some of them are in-world items, such as the props, the demons, they're enemies you can fight, exploders, they explode. Effects, they like do things. So this is like a decal, it's like a sticker you can place on the world. This is like a dude. I wonder if I can like change him. No, he is. What the fuck? What even? Alright, anyways. Nope. Light. Sorry. Stuff like that. Like little monitors and stuff. More props. These you can actually interact with. They're like buttons and stuff. Each one has like different things, like the jump boots. You pick them up and they let you double jump. That's another button that this like you can like hook this up to a logic chain and have it do stuff. And I'll get to that in a minute. More props, pickups. These are like for game modes like capture the flag, cores. You can pick those up. Regular ammo and fuel. Armor pickups. This is the beacon. Everyone knows what this is. Merida's beacon. Yeah. More props. These are like areas, but the volumes obviously. You got a bunch of those too. I can show those later. And just weapons that you can pick up. And then you have like logic functions, and these do different things. Like you can read the descriptions. These help tell the AI what to do, what they do. These are like sounds. These let you obviously this is a communication tab. This lets you communicate with your players while not communicating with the players, stuff like that. And then you get the logic functions, and you got these and your variables. And these are what I'm mostly going to be showcasing this time around, I guess, because with these you can do a lot of cool stuff. So without further stalling, so I can figure out what I want to say, let's get into the variables. So you have an integer, and if y'all remember from school, an integer is any whole number. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not 1.5, 1.8, 2.7, 2.5, 2 3/4, stuff like that. Those aren't integers. Those are just numbers. Some of them are irrational, some of them are fractions, stuff like that. But yeah, these are whole numbers. These are like whole number objects. So you can set what it starts as, min and max values, so you can reference this later. And a logic chain like this. And you can do some stuff with this. So when you put down something like this, an interactable or logic piece, when you first click on it, it's just going to give you like the outputs, right? So it's like what it does to use its value that it's set as. So for the integers, they only really have one. It's unchanged. So whenever the information stored in the variable changes, you can set it to signal something else. And if I wanted to, I could say when that variable changes, I can end the game. I don't want to do that though, because that would suck. But you can also look at the inputs. And with these comes a whole lot of stuff. So if I wanted to take one of these interactives and select the button here, and just like with the integers, with the interactives, when you first click on it, it shows the outputs, what to do when it's interacted with. You can also show the inputs. So these will come from different logic chains. And but yeah, so if a player touches this, so unused, boom, I can have it set that value. I can add, subtract, multiply, divide. I can do whatever that is. That's crazy. I can set it to the minimum value, maximum value, and a random number between the min and max. Which is actually pretty cool. I could use that for other stuff. So, keeping with the theme of, you know, the whole RPG thing, I want to make player stats, and I want to have the players be able to make their own quote-unquote character and have it be how they want it to be. So the first thing I started with was a couple or 3 interactables, but this one I disabled because I just want the screen. And so I started with a increase and a decrease, right, up and down. And in the screen I have it set to show some stuff I'll show in a minute. Then I decided, or then I took and I was like, alright, well, because I have, you know, a stat, this is agility, I'm going to need some integers. So I made two separate ones, and I'll explain why in a second. Actually, I'll explain why right now. So beyond just setting the stats, I want to be able to have the players carry over the stats they choose throughout the entire campaign. So I used what is called a persistent integer. So once this value is set, I can, or whatever this value is set to, I can move over to the next map, and it'll so if I have the player one, like the player one raw stats, I can then unpack this integer to represent the player's overall stats, and I'll get more into that later. Hi Tyson, that's my dog. Later, but for right now I'm going to explain how I went about creating a way for the players to actually set up their stats. But that's important for this. So I can only store whole numbers into this. So I developed a way to unpack that whole number into stats and other things. But in order to do it, I had to set it so that each one of these represented an increasing value. So agility counts as the ones place. The next one is tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s. And then I essentially do the reverse of this later, and I'll get into that later. But essentially each one of these only sets one placement of value. And that's important because, and that gets into this because I needed to separate their raw stat data from their actual stat data. Because I don't want a player with 900,000 strength running through just punching everything to death. And then I was like, alright, that's cool. Now I need a way to actually add all of this stuff. So you just go over here and on used, the down switch, you connect it and you say subtract. And because I connected it to the actual stat, I can leave this alone as subtracting 1 from the actual agility of the player. And then over here, same thing, but with add. Right, so now I have a system to add and subtract the literal stat points of the player. And then I essentially did the same thing on used to the raw data. But this one, actually the agility is the worst one I could have chosen because they're both 1 and agility is the ones place. But let's say I want to do strength or let's do perception instead, right? The perception would be subtracted by 10,000. The endurance is 1,000, and so on and so forth. The strength being 100,000. And all of these feed into their actual stats, And once these are set, I don't have to do anything else to them. I can continuously reference these in other logic chains and pull the value that they were set to. However, this, same with that one. So this whole thing is fine and dandy. The variable, or yeah, the integers, they get set. The persistent integer gets set, and all of that has been already explained so far. The last thing I need to explain is what that top piece is. This top piece is primarily for the beginning of the campaign. I wanted a way to ensure that the players didn't spend too many points, right? So they didn't just max out all their stats from the get-go. So I added a count. This is another, logic flow, and I set it to 20. And I need to connect a logic chain to this eventually, but for right now I won't. But basically, once that count reaches 0, all of these will be all the additions will be disabled. Once the count reaches above 0, they will be re-enabled, and I will reconnect, or I'll do that in a minute. Lastly, I don't want players wasting points, essentially pressing the little plus and then not being able to get their points back after they spent 20 points in strength but can only get 10. So I'm adding a little logic function here where it compares the strength to 0, and so if strength is equal to 0, it disables the down interactable, so they can't subtract past 0 and build more points. And then if strength is greater than 0, it enables that interactable so that you can subtract the points that you have in strength. That way they can play around with, what they want their stats to be. And then same thing up here. I keep doing that. This one is if strength is comparing strength to 10, and if strength is equal to 10, it disables the up switch so that they can't just keep spending points in strength, because they won't be able to get them back, because the max they can deduct from the strength is 10. So if they spend 20 points in strength and then try to remove them, they'll only get 10 back, because that's as many as that system can accept. And then if strength is less than 10, it enables that interactable. So I think that is actually ready to be demonstrated. Maybe. If not, then oh well. But yeah, so I'm essentially going to repeat that little logic chain for the other 5 stats. Then I'll get to work setting up the points to spend thing. Yeah, so if I push this button, that's an issue. This is not, oops. So one thing with the interactables is you have to set them to be reusable. If you don't, then you can't reuse them. So you push them once and it's done. Also, it's displaying the raw as stat. I don't want it to do that. I want it to display the strength in the bottom and the raw strength at the top. There we go. also has a rewind button, which is great. Alright, and then allow reuse. There we go. Wait. That's the wrong one. So I have to do this for the rest of them because I essentially just cloned all of these. But so you can get a demonstration of how this would work once it loads. If it loads. Here we go. Yeah, so just push this once, one, and that's the raw stat. That's what goes up to the what? Right. No, that's not right. No, that is right because the strength is all the stats start at a base of 1. Yeah, that's right. So I had a mind fart there. That's my bad. But yeah, so essentially they'll be able to set their own stats. So I'm going to cheat just a little bit and make it so I can access those. So if you just select all of these and then clone them, they end up having these exact same values, but I can easily change these to be, to better suit each one of these stat points. Alright, and then all I have to do is connect these to their respective switches. And kind of clean this up a little bit. And their logic stays stays the same. So I don't have to worry about rewiring any of this really. this up just a little bit. Okay. Tell if this is right. That's why I just wanted to be sure. So that is just about that. I just have to reset those integers and then I can, or the compares, and then I can, you know, get this fully cleaned up. Then I'll work on the count switch, which really shouldn't be too hard. Undo that real quick, I didn't like that. I'm really happy that this does have a undo button. I make a lot of mistakes. Can't believe I just did that. Alright. That was too close. Alright. Kinda wish the names didn't show up unless I was looking at it, but it is what it is. Alright. So now I can set this up to compare those. Alright. So this should just show my raw stats. That variable right there. Right. It shouldn't be the raw data. Oops. And now we'll get to the count. Once the count is reached, I actually don't want to do a count. I want to do another variable. We'll call this one starting stat. Oh no, it was a count, wasn't it? I'm stupid. It's okay, I'll get there someday. Let's try this again. On count reach. Boom. Disable. And let's just pull this way back here for now. And this. And finally, I will add just a pop-up message. Right there. And it'll display. And I'll call it no more stat points available. Alright, and then we will save and then test. Hang on, I don't think I changed the rest of the other integers yet. I need to change those to yeah. 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 Alright. So essentially what I did there was, at first I was running it all based on a max of 9, which is great and all, but it's an ugly number. Because it should be prime. It looks like it should be prime. It's small enough to be prime, but it's not, because the number 3 exists. But yeah, so what I did was I set it to essentially the initial value of 0 is baseline, then the 1 would be a modification of 1, and then a modification of 2, and so on, which I can build a logic equation later to, change that, right? Because if I show you this other thingy really quick, which is cool. This is a player proxy, and I can use it to do things to players. Specifically, where's the gear? Where's the gear? I can... Oops, alright. So, on spawned, once the player spawns, I can have a modifier set, right? I can change this modifier. I can change this modifier to do a lot of things. I can set their health, which would be for like their endurance stat. Armor is endurance. Their damage would be their strength. Their speed would be agility. Their ammo capacity would be their strength. Their equipment cooldown would be I guess their agility, stuff like that, power of time intelligence, stuff like that, right? Agility. So I can use that base of 0 to say there's no modification to that specific stat. Modification of 1, 2, 3 in this equation I can build to change all of that. And so with the base of 0 and the max of 9, that's still technically 10. And then here the initial value starts at 1 and goes on from there. So yeah, and now I'm ready to test. So strength is, raw data is 0, my actual strength is 1, perception same thing, endurance same thing, the raw persistent is set at 11111 because my stats are already there, charisma is 1, my intelligence is 1, and my agility is 1. So let's just add some strength. Everything looks like it's working great. The where's the raw persistent is set to 4. That's good. I have 6 here. So that's and 20 points to spend. So let's set everything to 4 just to make it a little bit even. These guys did not change. And that's why we test. That is why we test. And I'm gonna keep going. So adding 3 points to all of these to make them 4 would give me 18 points spent. I'll just drop the last 2 into strength because why not? I am a Doom Marine after all. And now that shouldn't be happening. That should not be happening. Okay. And that is why we test. But for right now, I have to use the restroom. So I'll be back.